he understood how to set up a farm stand or a peach stand and just sell from the roadside. And he had been doing it for quite a while with his kids. And
Oh,
he said, Shannon, this is the craziest ATM machine because we don't sell peaches. We sell an experience. We sell nostalgia. We sell happiness. And it's just like punching how much cash you want into an ATM machine. And at the end of the season, that's what you get.
well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that is laser focused to inspire you to take action to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan Bosavy, author of The Way Success Works. Today's guest was so intrigued by her friend's claim that his roadside peach stand business was like having his own personal ATM. She thought, okay, I want to see this for myself. So she traveled to his home state and spent the summer there learning everything she could about the business. That was 10 years ago. Since then, Shannon Houchin has fine-tuned her operation and earns a solid net six-figure income per season from her produce stands. It's a pretty simple business to learn, and Shannon says you can get up and running for as little as $200 in peaches. She teaches people how to get their own stands up and running through her company, Roadside Republic. Today you'll hear tips for sourcing the fruit and the key questions to ask, pricing considerations, finding the best location, how she sets up the displays for maximum sales, the importance of becoming part of the fabric of the community, and clear actionable success tips for your roadside stand. And while you're plotting your side hustle success, if you're enjoying what you're hearing in this podcast and you'd like to support it, a fun way to show your appreciation is to buy me a coffee. It really is a thing. Just go to sidehustlehero.com/support. A large soy latte could come in really handy right about now. Thank you from the bottom of my coffee cup. Now here is my conversation with the entrepreneur known by her fans as the Peach Lady, Shannon Houchin. Well, welcome, Shannon.
Yes. Thank you, Joan. Thanks for having me on the show.
When I was in my late teens, I remember driving down a fairly busy street in Toronto with my mom. And as I looked out the window, I noticed an older woman selling flowers out of some buckets at the side of the road. And I remember feeling sorry for her, thinking that poor woman trying to eke out a living selling flowers at the side of the road. Then some years passed, and I became involved in the flower industry. Myself and two business partners, we sold flowers, predominantly wholesale, although we had a retail store. And on the busy flower weekends, like Mother's Day and Easter, we sold flowers at the side of the road. And through that experience, I changed my judgment about that woman in Toronto when I saw firsthand just how lucrative a roadside stand can be. I'm sure you can relate.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So when you reached out and told me that you've been turning peaches into profit with roadside stands, I thought, okay, I've got to have you on the show, tell your story and your experience and share that with our Side Hustle Hero community. So how did you get involved in selling peaches in the first place, Shannon?
Yeah, so it's probably like a lot of people who are experimenting with side hustles. I was at a pivotal moment in life
Hmm.
where I was making a transition. My dad, who was my mentor for 10 years, we got to do business together every single day. Our family owned a software development company and a logistics company. He got brain cancer and then he eventually
Right.
passed away after 2 years. And so during that period, I was like, life is so short and it's so precious. And I want to spend my time doing exactly what I want, how I
Mm,
want, when I want, with who I want. And a friend of mine had been telling me for probably 4 or 5 years that I needed to come to South Carolina and check out his roadside stand business. My friend Rob was the original peach guy. That's what we call him. And he was the OG who taught me how to sell peaches on the roadside. So what he had done, he had grown up in South Carolina and he had grown up on orchards, right? And so he understood how to set up a farm stand or a peach stand and just sell from the roadside. And he had been doing it for quite a while with his kids. And
oh,
he said, Shannon, this is the craziest ATM machine you have ever seen. Because it we don't sell peaches, we sell an experience, we sell nostalgia, we sell happiness, and it's just like punching how much cash you want into an ATM machine, and at the end of the season, that's what you get. And I was like, "I don't believe," right? The
Yeah,
woman
yeah,
selling flowers out of a bucket, I don't believe it.
yeah.
What? But that year that I was going through that transition, I said, "Okay, all right, I'll come to South Carolina and I'll see it firsthand." And so I took my son Finn, who was 11 at the time, with me, and we went to South Carolina. And we spent the whole summer there learning the peach business from top to bottom. And now Finn is 21. He is my business partner in Roadside Republic, and we've been doing this now 10 years together. But
Nice.
what I got an education that summer like nobody's business. I learned everything not to do, everything that I could do wrong. I did it, and I did it times 100. And I quickly learned how to do the business right. And since then, we just haven't looked back, and we've continued to build our business and pivot and hang new revenue streams off of the core business, which is selling peaches. And it's turned into this unbelievable entrepreneurial journey.
Wow, that's quite a change from what you were doing before.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
We've
you learned the trade down in South Carolina, and then you
yes.
went back home where for that first season?
So that first season, I ended up staying there,
Okay.
and a couple of partners, including Rob, the original peach guy, and a couple of other people, and we did 100 peach stands in 3 different states. So we were selling tractor trailer loads of peaches. I mean, we would get a tractor trailer load probably every week, and then
Okay.
we would sell through it. I mean, we were flipping a lot of peaches. And we still do flip a lot of peaches, just now I am in Texas, and so we this part of the business we run here. The original part of the business, which was in Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, is still up and running, and the partners there control that part of the business. So we still do it, it's just it's modified and evolved a little bit to where I'm not doing tractor trailer loads of peaches. I'm doing I'm making great revenue with less labor. So I've gotten smarter instead of working harder.
Which is the objective for all of us.
Yes, yes.
So Rob had this business going down there in South Carolina already, and I guess when you showed up and began to get interested in the business, then another third party came in and the 3 of you grew the business from there. Is that how it
Yes,
went? Yeah.
yeah. Rob was doing it he was doing it on a highly successful and profitable scale. He was doing probably 5 to 8 stands simultaneously. And because I had this background in logistics and I already had warehouses and trucks and people and cash, I said, "Well, let's see what this thing can do. Let's see if we can scale it quickly to be a really big business." Because I was interested to see, could we generate 2 to $10 million worth of gross sales in a single season by scaling it that big? And the answer is yes, you can.
Right.
And
So
it's a little
what did you scale it to then
that very first year, we did $3 million
in the first
in
year?
gross sales, and
So
it was a tremendous amount of work.
oh, I can't imagine. Yeah. So he had the product and the product knowledge, and then you brought in the logistics and the vision really to grow it to that size.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. He had the old school business blueprint, and he knew the orchards, he knew the peaches, he knew how to sell produce. And so I brought in the logistics part, and then I brought in all of my marketing background. So we were able to scale it very quickly and gain awareness very quickly. And then since then, those 3 things in tandem have made all the difference. Knowing the orchards, knowing how to get the peaches and the best peaches. So essentially curating peaches from all over the country. So it's cultivating these relationships with orchards and wholesalers and brokers to know how to get product to where we are and then get it distributed. And then the hyper local marketing aspect, I mean, took our business to a whole 'nother level. Now we're big time competing because people know who we are,
Right.
and they would rather shop with us
Mhm.
than big box retailers. So we're having very good success with hyper local marketing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what do you think made the difference there? What were you doing to draw business away from the Walmarts?
So, we tapped into I very quickly I didn't know that it was called hyperlocal marketing at the time, but I understood the power of community and, like, raving fan base. So, very quickly, we were able to tap into community, which means what is the cultural identity of this place. So let's take Fort Worth where I am now, and we sell peaches here in the DFW Metroplex. It's tapping into the cultural identity of a place. Like what defines people here? What makes people passionate? What makes them proud?
Okay.
And in Texas, it's big cowboy culture. It's a fierce independence and pride. It is self-reliance. It is Texas I mean, there's so many things, Texas heat,
Right.
and one of the things that makes people so proud here is supporting Texas farmers and growers. And so tapping into cowboy culture, tapping into that advocacy and that sustainability and that local pride, um, people naturally gravitated to what we offered because we were able to provide like provenance essentially to the products. We could identify the orchards where the peaches are coming from. We knew the farmers and the growers. We knew the varietals of the peaches. I mean, we still do today, but we're
Right.
able to tell that story which taps into that fierce Texan independence and pride, and then that advocacy for buy local, stay local. And customers will gravitate towards that, and they will feel so happy, and they will feel like, "I'm doing my part today." Not only are they supporting me, a local reseller,
Yes.
but they are in turn supporting the actual orchard and that family who's probably the 2nd and 3rd generation now at the orchards that are still growing peaches. So it's identifying the cultural identity and not just selling, but become a part of that fabric and then
Right.
promoting that fabric. So we're always promoting other things besides us, might be other businesses, festivals, fairs, products, other vendors that we're compatible with or complementary to, beekeepers, chicken farmers, you name it. If it's local, we support it and promote it.
Right. And then you really become part of the community and people wanna support that.
Right. Yeah. And then we become sort of an expert and an authority, which also speaks to hyperlocal marketing.
Right.
So if somebody, because they know us, they know that we know all the growers, right? All the farmers in the state, people will come to us and they'll say, "Hey, where can I get this type of honey? Hey, where can I get good farm eggs? Where can I find Pecos cantaloupe?" And we become
Right.
that referral for everyone who is local. And that becomes really fun. And so people just constantly come to us and ask for advice or direction or referrals or ask us to show up at events. Can we partner with you? We get a lot of people who want to partner with us. So becoming a part of the community then ensures we are that expert, and that just raises our reputation
Right.
and
Sure.
authority.
Yeah. So the peaches that you're selling now, is that on in a single stand in, Texas that you and Finn are doing, or do you have more than one stand
So
locally?
we still do quite a few stands during the season.
Hmm.
Our business has evolved to where we are still doing the semi-permanent stands. So when we got started, the old school peach stands, produce stands will go up as soon as produce season, peach season really kicks off, which is the
Yes.
end of May.
Okay.
And those stands stay in place until the 1st of September, and
Okay.
they don't come down. And we're selling produce out of there 7 days a week, like from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We
Okay.
still do those, a lot of those, and now we do a lot of mobile farmers markets. So, like, we have trucks that go out and will set up, like in a neighborhood, for example, we partner with homeowner associations and we'll show up in a neighborhood for a couple of hours so that residents and homeowners can come spontaneously shop for a couple hours, or they can order online and just come pick up their order with us.
Perfect.
We do a ton of pop up markets. So we have these 10 by 10 tents. We have kits. So we have all these students who work for us, and on any given weekend, in addition to all the other permanent stands, we're probably running somewhere between 5 and 10 different pop-up events every single weekend. And then also we do farmers markets. So you will find us, a reseller, inside
Right.
the farmers market. And sadly, even though these markets are still billed as farmers markets, sometimes we're the only person there selling produce at a farmers market.
Oh, okay.
And so
Yeah.
we quickly become, just
Yeah.
because we're it. We are
Yeah.
the solitary source. And so that raises our capital, our social capital, and our reputation so much higher in the community. Just we show up and we give people the opportunity to get really good stuff.
And if you're really mobile like that too, I would imagine you, as far as like community events and things, it could even be like a outdoor baseball game or something that you could show up for.
Oh, yeah, we
Is that
even did last year. Michael's, who is like a nationwide craft store here in the
Yes.
US.
We have them in
um,
Canada too.
okay,
Yep.
they had us tour their corporate headquarters on Earth Day. So we set up
Oh,
inside the corporate headquarters of Michael's on Earth Day and set up a farmer's market for all the Michael's employees. I mean, that's the kind, yeah, so you just never know where it's gonna come from. Michael's is here in the DFW area. They saw us, and said, "Hey, we would love for you to come out." And so we did. It was fun. Almost forgot about that.
so they reached out to you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, we have a lot of commercial entities. We've set up in inside business parks and in Dallas, where there's like a big plaza in between a bunch of business buildings. And so we'll set up and host a farmers market for all of the corporate workers.
Oh, very nice. So you'll be spearheading that particular event as an example.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
Very creative in your marketing.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it helps us. So that's part of the hyper local. We go to where the customer is. And
Hmm.
so when we're on their doorstep virtually, we raise that awareness, and now people understand that what we mean to the community and what we provide, and they will follow us then. It doesn't matter if we're 25 miles away at a different event, they'll come see us.
And
That's how awesome it is.
that gives you the contact with the client too to discuss your other locations and demo.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, for someone just starting out, you're at the point now where you're continuing to build and build out. For someone wanting to start out setting up like one stand on the weekends, say, number one, is that even a thing, or do they have to do it full time, or can they just start it on the weekends? Is that
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a call with a prospective student before the podcast, and same thing. He wanted to know, can I help? I'm going to start small. And of course, you can start small. What is so wonderful about the roadside stand business is truly you can customize the business blueprint to fit your desires and your goals. So if you're somebody who works 9 to 5 during the week and you just have 10 hours on the weekend, you want to do two events. What I recommend is that people, and you can start for $200. It does not have to be sophisticated. The barrier to entry is so low.
okay?
And I mean, I would almost guarantee, if I could guarantee, that you will not lose money selling peaches. 200 bucks, you'll sell through that inventory, you just roll it into the next day, and then you just keep going until the end of the week. But back to the single stand, the answer is absolutely. I love the environment today with millennials and Gen Z because they're so supportive of local, and
Yes.
all of these local farmers markets, shopping markets, artisan markets, gift markets are popping up with just local vendors. So local artists, local bakers, local hot dog makers, local farmers are showing up to set their 10 by 10 in these shopping opportunities. So you can find some if you want to start small as a roadside stand vendor, find one of those established shopping markets in your area that has been there for a while, because they've already done the legwork. They've done all the marketing and all the promotion, and they're gonna bring the business to you, and
Right,
so
they've
you
got the
just
traffic, yeah,
exactly, they've
yeah,
got the foot traffic, and it's such a boon to co-locate with other businesses, and the fees are super cheap. We're talking 25 bucks for a space, $40 maybe for a space, so it's well worth your time, and it's like a 4-hour deal on a Saturday and or a Sunday, and you just bring peaches. No need to complicate things.
okay.
One product will make everyone happy, and just do that, and you will be successful.
And what other elements are important to that stand that you've set up in one of those markets? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah,
shopping
where
market. So what I tell students, because I teach 15-year-olds how to do this, and we teach college students. And so what you need for an environment like this is in Texas especially, you do want a tent or an umbrella because it's hot as Hades here,
Right,
and you need some relief from the sun. So you do want a tent or an umbrella, a table, and you want a sign. And this is how the kids can get started for 200 bucks. You can hand write that sign. You can get out magic markers and cardboard and make a sign for yourself. And then you want to acquire $200 worth of peaches, for example. But that's all you need to get started, and you need some cash.
right.
You can do cashless payment apps, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. You don't have to be real sophisticated at first, and probably a starting bank in order to make change in your peaches, and you can get started. But showing up in these markets, these artisan markets and farmers markets, the foot traffic is there, the people are lovely, the market managers will tell you really everything. They'll tell you where to go, they'll tell you
Yep.
how to set up and what the hours are and if there are any requirements, etcetera, then you're good to go.
Depending on the location, those can be difficult to get into, or maybe there's already a fruit stand or a peach person or whatever, and they don't want to allow somebody else in.
Mhm.
I'm a huge fan of farmers markets. In fact, I get most of my shopping done there every week as far as local produce, and so I'm sold on that, as well as a place to test products as a startup. But some of those can be difficult to get into, like I said, because they're already full with what you want to introduce. So, what are some other locations that would be potentially good ones if those are unavailable or you're on a wait list to get in there?
Yeah, take a look at the larger area for, like I said, these gift markets or pop-up shopping markets. Here in Texas, they call them like sip and shop or spring soiree, or it's just an environment where people can have a have a leisurely morning and shop local vendors. The quickest way I find them is I go on Facebook and I look at events. The
Oh,
events
okay.
are within a 25-mile radius of me, and I put in shopping, and all of these pop-up markets come up. So
Perfect.
you can look under shopping because that's pretty much how they're categorized,
Okay.
and then if you want to keyword search it, just put in market, and they'll populate. And
Nice.
on any given weekend, you'll probably find 4 or 5 of them going
Great.
on.
Yeah. Have you ever set up in, say, a parking lot that's complementary to an existing business? I'm thinking like a convenience store, for example.
Yes,
Yeah.
that we do a lot of that. Convenience stores are our favorite business to co-locate with because the parking lots are big,
Right.
and our customers can get easy ingress, egress, the in and out,
Yep.
and then they can also park. And what I find a large part of our customer base is older folks, and so they don't like to get out of the car. And so it becomes a drive-through
Really?
almost. Yes, no joke. And so we'll get people who don't wanna get out of the car, and they'll
Yep.
pull real close to the stand, and they'll just roll down the window
That would have been my father for sure. I could so picture it.
and conduct a transaction, "Hey there, youngster, we need some
Yeah.
peaches. Yeah, come on over here." And so we will do window service at the peach stand. So we look for big parking lots. So, yeah,
Yeah.
convenience stores are a really nice place. We'll do big shopping centers sometimes, yeah, big department stores. We do restaurants. We're in a parking lot of a really busy pancake house.
Oh,
Believe it
nice.
or not, that's a really good place, to locate. And it comes down to, does the city require any kind of permit or license?
Right,
So you want to check with the zoning department because they're typically the issuing entity for that kind of stuff for permits or licenses. And then, of course, you need to negotiate with the landlord. And we actually have a lease. We lease with the property owner and we pay them on a daily or weekly or monthly rate, whatever you
right,
can negotiate for the season.
right.
And that's how we do it. And it turns out to be a great opportunity for us and for their business as well, because we share clientele at that point.
Right, because in the case of, say, the convenience store, you're really non-competing. Most 7-Elevens don't sell fresh peaches, and
Exactly.
so you're both bringing in traffic to each other. I like that.
Yes.
So what would somebody looking at, and I know it's going to, have a lot of factors that are going to vary the cost, but just a ballpark if you were to get into a space like that in front of a convenience store or a pancake house.
Mhm. It really depends on the going rate for the area, but we feel that a big tent that we run, the 10 by 20 tents, these are commercial tents, 10 by 20 that we set up and stay up all season, usually consume like 2 parking spaces, for
Oh,
example.
okay.
And so we will pay $25 a day, maybe on average for that space. So we'll end up paying anywhere from $775 to $1,000 a month, which is a pretty good rate
Right.
just for some asphalt and a tent. But the roadside stand vendor can negotiate. If you can get better, do better. And we sometimes the location is so good and so premium that we'll pay more. And we
Sure.
don't mind because we know what the sales will be for the season.
I know some convenience store owners, I bet you they would really go out of their way to see you successful. So to give that budding entrepreneur a bit of a break and working with them until they get up and running and get established there.
Yeah, and we deal with mostly mom and pop convenience stores. That's what we aim for because we feel that we wanna support them just as much as they support us, and
Right.
the big box convenience store chains don't need us. So that's our preference with the mom and pops, and additionally, 80% of our business is impulse. So at the peach stand, 80% of the traffic every single day is people we've never seen before. And they're
Interesting.
just driving by and they see our tent because we have kind of this branded look and really there's nothing special about it. But everyone knows, oh, that's a peach stand. Oh, that's the roadside stand folks. Or as they call me locally, it's the peach lady. The peach lady's here. So we have this white tent that we always have, and then we have very specific signage. So we have red and white banners that say peaches, and then we put flags up. And so consumers, right, are driving by and they're primed, right, in their memory banks for the roadside stand experience. And
Right.
so all you have to do is fly a flag that has the peach on it and they immediately know what that means. And so
Right.
they will turn around and then come back. And that's what happens 80% of the day. And so it's impulse stop traffic. So for that convenience store or whatever business is co-locating, they may not see that traffic before, but they do now because we're there. And so
Right.
inevitably, people will get gas and go inside and do inside purchases.
Sure.
So yeah, it becomes really good.
And the flag's gonna catch their eye if everything around it
Mhm.
is static. Plus, you've
Yes.
got the big word peaches there. You're not
Yes.
complicating it with all this small text that they're not gonna see anyway if they're flying by.
That's right. That's right.
Those 2 elements alone are gonna catch their attention. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it needs to be legible and visible and high visibility. So
Yeah,
meaning visibility is not impeded by anything.
and taking into account the speed of the traffic going by, how big the sign is and where it's
Right,
gonna
yeah.
be, right?
We do
Yeah,
big flags. They're like 4 by 6 feet. We do big flags so that people can see them.
right. And then again, some of that those elements are going to be restricted based on the zoning and the landlord and
Exactly. It will depend on the city,
okay,
for sure, the zoning department. Mostly in the South and the Southern United States, there are very specific requirements for signage, and what we have found is we can get away with it more if we keep the signage on the tent itself.
Okay.
So
Yes.
we're not staking anything into the ground,
Right.
like between the asphalt and the street.
Right.
We're keeping it on the tent. So
Yeah.
we can get away with it more that way.
So how would someone starting out source peaches? Where would they even start?
So we recommend that wherever you are, I mean, you can get on the internet and just search local farms, but
Okay.
there are some local farms, local orchards, local growers, and start developing your yellow page list. There are some really good directories out there. There's the Produce Marketers Association, and they have a guide which is searchable. You just have to register for a free account. And this is all of the growers, wholesalers, producers in the US. So you can actually search your city and see who the closest growers are, who the brokers and wholesalers are. And then you physically want to travel to where they are because this business is still very much face-to-face relationship based.
Okay.
Like, these folks are way too busy. They're not answering emails, they're not getting on the phone a whole lot. They're working in their warehouses. They are actually moving product.
Right.
And we're talking these guys are working 3 o'clock in the morning, and then they're done at noon. So you wanna identify all of who those suppliers are in your area, physically go to visit them, and do it early in the morning because noontime, they're done for the day. And to start having those conversations, understanding what they get, um, because not everybody will get peaches. So you wanna identify those ones who will get peaches. You want to know what their, terms are. Do you have to buy a certain amount of quantity?
Right.
Is it cash only? Is it check? What farms or if it's a broker, what farms are they buying from? So you just show up and just start asking questions and cultivating that relationship with the wholesalers and the growers. And then the farms themselves, same thing, just show up. Just show up and start talking to them to understand what their terms are.
Right. And is there some maybe common objections or barriers for someone starting out that the grower or farmer would be leery of not wanting to deal with you?
The little guys, it's tougher for mom and pop farms, independent farms to deal with really, really small fries
Okay.
because it doesn't make financial sense for them. So most of the mom and pop growers today, independent farms, I hate to say it, but they sell their entire harvest
Hmm.
to a broker or wholesaler
Right.
because they can guarantee, right, the revenue they're going to receive off the entire crop, and
Yes.
they know they're gonna sell through.
And they're just
So
dealing with one person.
and they're dealing with one
Yeah.
person. And so sometimes it is hard as for the little guys, little resellers like us to get into the farm. And that's why you need to have wholesalers and brokers in your Rolodex, right?
Okay.
Because you need to be able to get product. And it's not always going to be with the farm or the orchard direct, but still take the time
For sure.
to go meet them. So their story, what they grow, that whole backstory, so it makes it easier for you to sell the products. And then at some point, hopefully when you develop a relationship, they will let you in.
Hmm.
It took me there's a peach orchard not far from here that for 5 years, I wanted to buy peaches direct from them. They would not let me in. They would
Wow.
just say, "Nope, nope, nope. We don't sell wholesale." Until last year, I kept going to them long enough and showing up that they knew my face, and then finally they were like, "You're Roadside Republic. All right, we'll sell to you." So it wasn't that they finally knew, like, me from showing up. They saw my face enough on the internet
Right.
and on Facebook that they said, "Okay, we'll sell to you now."
Yeah.
So, finally, after 5 years, I get to buy direct from them now, and I
Yes.
just love them. They're
Yeah.
everybody locally loves them too, so keep after it. Don't give up.
Well, and after 5 years, they had to take you seriously. She's not going away, so we might as well sell to
Right,
her, right?
right, yeah.
And what about pricing? How do you decide what to sell them for?
So, price varies on the harvest, of course. So last year was a terrible year for peaches. Georgia lost like 80% of the crop due
Wow.
to late freezes. And so peaches were sky high last year, the highest price they've been in a decade.
Wow.
So that really, those types of factors, weather, will determine what we charge for peaches. We do not compete with grocery stores or big box retailers. And in fact, I very intentionally interrupt the pattern in the consumer's mind so that when they show up to one of our locations, they don't think, man, these peaches are so much more expensive than the grocery store or Walmart. Their experience at our stand is so, vastly different than a grocery store experience, that
Okay.
the pricing is also vastly different. So we look at what, of course, wholesale is, what the wholesale rates are, and then we look at all of our overhead, all of our expenses, what it's going to take to make a good profit, and then we build in some buffer. So we don't keystone, which keystoning is like, your 100% markup.
Okay.
We do even more than that, because in
Okay.
this business, you've gotta give yourself the ability to make profit and to be sustainable season after season.
Right.
And so we do more than 100% markup, but we give a super good experience. And so our consumers do not fuss about our prices, not at all.
What kind of percentage over and above the local grocery store or Walmart would you be priced?
For peaches and so I don't even do it by the pound. So
Okay.
most peaches are sold by the pound, and we sell them by the peck. So the fruit baskets, these old school fruit baskets, we'll sell them in the
Yeah.
peck baskets,
Okay.
and then we have different prices per peck. So we're usually, I would say, over the grocery store, we may be 25 to 50% higher
Okay.
than what they're charging in the grocery store.
Right.
And yeah, I would say that's pretty fair. But when people come into our roadside stand, they can smell the peaches. There's a fragrance,
Yeah.
which you will never find at the grocery store. They can actually touch the peach and feel how soft and
Mhm.
ripe it is.
Right.
You don't find that at the grocery store.
Do you do free
And
samples? Oh,
we
okay.
don't, because of permitting.
Oh,
So here where we are, and I think a lot of states are this way too, if you cut a peach and that's considered processing. And now you have to go through the health department to get a permit.
oh man.
So
Okay.
we do not do that because we don't want to mess with the additional licensing and
Oh,
permitting.
sure. Yeah.
We don't want to deal with
Yeah.
site inspections to make sure that we have hand washing stations.
Yes.
So we don't
Yeah.
we unfortunately don't offer any samples. But it's never, a barrier to sales for us.
Right. So that small peck, you called it?
Yes.
I know it's going to depend on the size, but just like roughly, how many peaches would be in that?
Yes. So, and it depends. It also
Okay.
depends on the point in the season, because early in the season, the peaches are much smaller.
Hmm.
So you're going to get a lot of peaches in the
Oh,
peck
okay.
basket.
Right.
And then when we get to mid-season and late season, the
Right.
peaches now are softball size.
Right.
And so
Right.
you don't get as many. But typically it's about 3.5 pounds for what we call a quarter peck.
Okay.
And last year we sold a quarter peck. Did we sell it for $15? I think we did.
Okay.
So yes, 3 pounds, 3.5 pounds. It's almost like $5 a pound,
Right.
and the grocery store might be 2.50 a pound, sometimes a little bit higher,
Right.
depending on what point of the season it is. If it's early, it's gonna be expensive, but the later we get into the season, prices go down.
Okay. That's another good tip too.
Yeah,
So
it's
if
just and
you're,
that's just due to availability,
yeah.
right, quantities.
And because you've been involved in it so long, you're going to be buying it at a better rate than someone else coming in, setting up their first stand. Is that a fair assumption?
Probably,
Okay.
probably, and that's just due to relationships
Hmm.
that we've
And
created.
volume and volume.
Yes, and
Right.
volume. And that's why
Yeah.
you wanna go in and have that face to face with the
Right.
wholesalers and the brokers so
Right.
that you can look at them and they get to know you and you guys
Hmm.
can negotiate.
So I'm just trying to help somebody crunch the numbers here. So if you're retailing that for 15, their cost might be around 7.
Little lower,
A little
little lower.
lower? Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to the cost of the peach and whatever packaging baskets, however they're going to be selling it, the tent and the rental of the space, are there any other costs that might be overlooked or that they don't think of? Yeah.
We always carry liability insurance on our
Okay.
business because you're set up in a public place, so you wanna make sure that you're covered,
Hmm.
and I would suggest I mean, $1,000,000 policy is
Right.
what most people are gonna ask for, so when you're negotiating a lease with the property owner or the landlord,
Right.
you're gonna wanna be able to provide your $1,000,000 policy, and a lot of the property owners will ask you to put them on as a rider on the policy. So if anything happens, if and this happens in Texas actually pretty frequently, high winds come up and start moving your tent and blow it into a vehicle, well, you
Right.
wanna make sure that you're covered.
Right.
So we carry $1,000,000 liability policy. You're gonna have transportation because you've got to go pick up peaches, you've got to deliver stuff. We do deliveries now. People can order online, and then we have, a group of kids that will go run deliveries for us. So we have vehicles, we have gas. Labor is probably, besides the peaches themselves,
Right.
labor is probably the second biggest,
Yes.
overhead cost.
Hmm.
And we pay our folks really well, and so that they'll come back season after season. And we want them to have fun too, so we do pay them really well. But those are probably the 2 biggest overhead, but if it's somebody who's just running a single stand,
Right.
they will probably be working it.
Right. Yes.
So they'll
Yes.
save themselves that overhead.
Right.
We do now accept credit cards. We just started doing that in the last 3 years. So
Okay.
we do have credit card fees.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's nominal. It by accepting credit cards, it increased our business by 40%.
Yeah.
I found not only did it increase our sales, but it increased the cart value. By allowing people to shop with the credit card, they ended up spending more because people are always
Yes.
limited, like, I only have $20 of cash," right? So then they're
Right.
capped. But with their credit card, they'll go ahead and spend $45. So that helped tremendously.
So you saw that increase in revenues just by
Mhm.
adding the cards.
Yes, that was
Nice.
great.
Hmm. Right. So we're going to do our best to calculate how much we should order peaches, but there's going to be times, especially as a newbie to the industry, ordering. If I've got leftover peaches, what do you do with them? Some of them go rotten, some of them just don't sell. Maybe it's a rainy weekend or cold, people aren't out.
Yeah. So over the last decade, we've gotten really good at forecasting inventory. So fortunately, today we have very little waste. That wasn't always the case. Early on, when we were doing 100 stands, forecasting was a little more challenging, and we would lose peaches because we don't ever refrigerate anything. So we get peaches directly from the orchard, and we have to turn that inventory like in 4 days
Right. Yeah.
because we don't put anything in cold storage. And so we inevitably did have waste. And it's through trial and error that I figured out when peaches start to over ripen, that's the perfect time to sell them to commercial producers. So these are people that are making like ice cream and custard and jams and jellies and
Right.
salsas because the peaches are perfect
Yes.
for those types of processes. And
Yeah.
so today, if we ever have any overripe peaches, they're immediately sold to the custard maker and the ice cream maker, and then everybody locally who wants to make jam and jelly. So you can make a profit
Right.
off of your bad peaches.
Hmm.
And then
Right.
today, so we never throw anything in the trash. All of our cardboard is recycled. So, I mean, there's just virtually nothing that goes in the garbage with our
Nice.
locations anymore.
Nice. And even if you weren't able to make that sale at a profit, at least you're getting something back,
Yes, that's correct.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. In some areas, I'm looking at you, Canada, the growing season might be a little bit shorter. And so, do you have people, some of your students perhaps, or yourself as well, that do other kinds of fruits as well? Like get into
Yes.
apples in the fall, for example.
Yeah. So what is so cool about the pop-up business model is that you can sell hard goods as well. You
Hmm.
don't even have to sell perishables. And if you still want to stay in like consumables, perishables, you can do honey
Hmm.
because that lasts forever. You can do canned goods, right? Like jams, jellies, pickled vegetables. That's super popular. So, all of those types of things are sell super well at our roadside stands. And then whatever produce or whatever is farmed or whatever people go crazy for there,
Right.
so staying in the business of working with growers, we will also work with nurseries. So all of these nurseries are growing potted plants.
Right.
So that would be like geraniums and azaleas and whatever is in bloom
Right.
that you can put in pots. So you might get like a 4-inch pot or like, right, a 12-inch pot.
Right.
Those are great to sell at a roadside stand. So you can go through the seasons with different products that you're selling at your stand.
Right. And so what does your operation look like now where you are? How many stands have you got going? What do the revenue numbers look like?
So now, since Finn has taken over logistics for the most part,
Okay.
we wait. For the most part, we really wait till peach season.
Hmm.
Sometimes, if the berries are really good, like strawberries are starting up now, they're, yeah, end of March, 1st of April. We might open a little bit early if we can get a handle on some good strawberries. And then those will take us into May, and then peach season will start. And then most of the time now we're ending at the end of peach season.
Okay.
So we're probably ending somewhere mid to late September. And over the course of a season, depending on how many stands we're doing, net profits could be 150, 250,000 in a
Per
single just in a single season.
for how many stands?
So that's with 2 permanent stands
Okay.
and doing probably 15 pop-ups a week. So
Oh
2
wow.
permanent stands, yeah, and 15 pop-ups a week. We've scaled back quite a bit,
Hmm.
from the 100 stands, but there's still the business that's ongoing in North Carolina. So
Right.
they're doing a whole segment of business there
Right.
with multiple permanent stands, the big stands.
Oh, okay.
Here in Texas now, since I'm working on the business and not in the business,
Right.
we've scaled back. And last year was so hot here, it got to be like 115 on the
Wow.
asphalt, and it was just really hot. And when it
Yeah.
gets that hot, we 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 close up at 2 o'clock because it's unbearable. So
Right.
we're running stands from like 9 to 2 in the Texas summer now. So we've
Right.
shortened our hours when it gets over 110 degrees.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, you mentioned the experience you give to the customer when they come up to your stand is quite different than they if they're walking into a Walmart. Um, what is that? What's different? What would I notice as a customer? To how do you differentiate?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research and looked back at images of roadside stands, like from like the 1950s, maybe no, well, maybe like the 1930s through the 1970s.
Wow.
And I wanted to see what roadside stands look like. And so we have tried to recreate that experience for the consumer because that's the imagery, that's the memory that's primed in our our memory banks. Like, we're looking for that. And so
Right.
when you come up to one of our stands, it's very mom and pop. It's not sophisticated. It's not real fancy. I mean, it looks like we've got these giant bushel baskets that are turned over on their side and corn's just spilling out
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah.
We've got full cases of peaches that are stacked up on the table. So we try to recreate the experience of a farm stand as much as possible. And we'll have like gingham print tablecloths and we do a lot of handwritten, hand lettered signage.
Right. Nice.
Yeah,
And if
just that kinda and the signs that we do have pre-printed are very vintage feeling, so it evokes that kinda happy memory.
not being involved in the industry, there's some questions I probably didn't even know to ask. So is there something that I should have asked you that I haven't?
I would say this is what I tell everyone,
Mhm.
you don't have to be an expert in produce, you don't have to be an expert in peaches. You don't have to know anything about produce to get started. You just have to do a little bit of research and start fostering those relationships with the farms and the growers,
Right.
and you can learn on the fly. I mean, because we do teach 15-year-olds how to do this. We teach mom and dads with toddlers how to do that. We teach everybody how to do this. And people can get it even in a single afternoon. Like I've coached students over the phone. I just went and bought 20 cases of peaches. I'm about to set up the trailer on this intersection. What do I need to know? You know? And so, I just we'll go over it real quick, like, an hour's worth of chatting and, "Okay, I'll call you back." And then he's selling peaches on the roadside.
Yeah.
So, it can be done and you can learn on the fly, and the generous the peach business is very forgiving in that you're not gonna mess up because all you need to do is sell through your inventory of peaches, and it's better to sell out rather than sell short. So I always tell people, "Don't worry if you sold out, that's great, because then you just be like, "Sold out, be back
Right.
tomorrow." And that
Yeah.
creates scarcity in the
Right.
consumer's mind, so they'll,
Right.
"Oh, be back early tomorrow." So the business is very forgiving. You
Right.
just need to be personable. You just need to have a couple $100 to buy some peaches, and you gotta show up, and you gotta do the hard work. Because I won't lie, it is hard work. It
Yes.
is physical labor,
Mhm.
but the money's worth it, and the people are worth it.
Yes. Yes. And if you are that brings up another question. If you are maybe 2/3 through the day and you see you're sitting with a bunch of peaches, what are some creative ways that you've found to move that product?
Yeah, so now with our very large following that we have online, and this we had to cultivate this over a
Yes.
series of years.
Yeah.
I just put a notice out on like our Facebook page and say, "Hey y'all, 25-pound case of peaches here, waiting to pick up." And I'll let people know like the case is like we may normally sell a case of peaches for $97. That
Okay.
like a whole case.
Right.
But I'm selling it for $50 because it's the end of the day.
Right.
And people will pay online in order for me to do that so they can come and get it. That's how quick. So once you started following and you have those kind of discounts, people will show up. They will show up and they will buy you out so that nothing goes to waste. You can get that
Mhm.
inventory sold. But
Yeah.
then also see what other ice cream makers or custard makers are in your area. And then they're always using fresh fruit, local fruit for to create those local treats.
Mhm. Well, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Shannon?
Yeah, you guys can find us at roadsiderepublic.com. And we have a ton of info there. We also talk about our programs. We have an evergreen course. It's a video course.
Okay.
During COVID, we sat down and we kind of codified what we had been teaching people in person for the previous 8 years or 7 years. So we developed a video course and it's available all online and you can find the program links on roadsiderepublic.com. We have a TikTok channel and we do a lot of videos there, which is like behind the scenes content, like a
Right.
day in life. Come along with us to the wholesaler market in Dallas, or we take people along when we go to the orchard. And so they can get behind the scenes peeks of that kind of stuff. So we do a
Fun.
lot of fun, free content on TikTok.
So a lot of free resources, or they can jump in with the course.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, you download the course and everything you need is available to you immediately.
Right. So, what's your best tip, Shannon, to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream?
I would say 2 things. If I had advice on a side hustle is make sure that it fits your schedule, your
Mm.
goals, your needs and that it's scalable. Meaning, if this side hustle fits my needs for a part-time gig or just a weekend gig, that's awesome, and it can all and hopefully it can also deliver the income
Right.
that you want. But then I would say make sure it's scalable, because if you love this side hustle and you decide you want it to be your 9 to 5, can you take it there? Will it accommodate your goals and your income requirements? And the cool thing about roadside stands is, yes, they can. You can scale from 1 stand to 100. It just all depends on what your goals are.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for your insights into the world of peach stands and what it takes to be successful at it, and for being today's side hustle hero.
Yes, thank you, John. Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
I love businesses that are straightforward, easy to understand. And selling peaches from a roadside stand doesn't get much simpler. And as Shannon mentioned, you don't need to know a lot about peaches and produce. You'll bring your existing skill set to the business, and whatever skills you feel you might be shy on, you can learn or hire. And you can customize this business to suit your goals and your lifestyle. Maybe you've got a particular dollar goal in mind, and you can nail that in one season. Shannon teaches students how to earn college tuition over the summer by selling peaches. Or maybe you want something year round, and you can change up your offerings on a seasonal basis. And it's scalable too. You heard how Shannon displays the peaches and the rest of the items she sells in a very specific way. Her attention to detail with the gingham tablecloths and the vintage signage is all tied into cultivating that feeling of nostalgia to increase sales. Be deliberate in however you display your wares, whether that's an online side hustle that you're starting, or your bricks and mortar store, or your roadside stand. You've likely heard me say that one of my side hustles that turned into full time was a delicatessen I owned. There was one supplier in particular that I had an exclusive with called Oyama Sausage. I remember the first time I traveled to see their flagship store. They had all their offerings so well laid out in their deli cases, everything screamed buy me. Even the salamis, of which I am not a fan, but the way they had them stacked and displayed, I thought, okay, maybe I'd like those. To the best of my ability, I emulated back at my store what I saw in theirs, and I'm confident it contributed to my success. But first things first. A key to success, of course, is to get started. Get that one stand up and running if that's what you decide to do, and you can tweak and pivot and improve from there. Let me know what you think of the roadside stand side hustle. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find links to Shannon's social media, her website, Roadside Republic, and the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.